extra episode of Orinda Talks in the Star Trek series. Today we will talk about the Star Trek TOS episode The City of the Edge of Forever. And today I was a guest at the Trek Canon podcast. Tommy from Trek Canon is also a regular guest in the Orinda Talks podcast. Enjoy listening to our conversation. While the USS Enterprise is orbiting an unexplored planet, Chief Medical Officer Leonard McCoy is treating an injured Lieutenant Sulu when the Enterprise is rocked by a time distortion and McCoy accidentally injects himself with an overdose of cortisone, a dangerous drug. Delusional and paranoid, McCoy flees from the bridge to the transporter room, beaming himself down to the planet below. Captain James T. Kirk leads a landing party to look for McCoy, and they come across an ancient glowing stone archway, which turn out to be the cause of the time distortions. They discover the archway to be sentient, and this Guardian of Forever explains that it is a doorway to a time-land place. While Spock is recording historic images from the portal, McCoy's escaped through it. The landing party suddenly loses contact with the Enterprise, and the Guardian informs them that McCoy has altered the past, and that the Enterprise and all that they know no longer exist. The Guardian permits Kirk and Spock to follow McCoy in an effort to repair the timeline. Spock times their passage so as to arrive where McCoy did ahead of when he will arrive, and they find themselves in New York City in 1930 during the Great Depression. After stealing clothes from a fire escape to blend in, they meet a woman named Edith Keeler, played by Joan Collins, who runs the 21st Street mission. They are given a place to sleep, along with doing odd jobs to earn money. Spock works to devise a method of interfacing with his tricorder and analyze its record images to determine how McCoy has altered history. While they await his arrival, Kirk and Keeler spend time together, and Kirk begins to fall in love. McCoy arrives and stumbles into the mission, unnoticed by Kirk and Spock, and Keeler nurses him back to health. Spock completes his work and discovers Keeler was supposed to die that year in a traffic accident. Spock learns Dr. McCoy altered the past by saving Keeler's life, and in the altered timeline, Keeler founded a pacifist movement on the eve of World War II. This causes the United States to delay its entrance into the war, allowing Nazi Germany time to develop nuclear weapons, which they launch in their V-2 rockets to conquer the world. Kirk admits his love for Keeler, and Spock answers that Keeler must die in order to prevent millions of deaths and restore the future. Going with Kirk to see a movie, Keeler mentioned McCoy. Kirk was shocked and excited, tells her to stay where she is, and calls Spock to tell him this. The Starfleet trio reunite in front of the mission. Observing this and curious, Keeler across the street to join them as she steps right in front of a fast-moving truck. Kirk turns to save Keeler from the truck, but a shout from Spock frees him in his tracks. Then Kirk blocks McCoy from saving her as he is struck and killed. McCoy, not knowing why Kirk and Spock did what they did, it's stunned and it's disbelief that Kirk has knowingly stopped him from saving Keeler. With history restored, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are returned to the Guardian's planet where the rest of the landing party is waiting. Scotty remarks as Spock, Kirk, and McCoy returns through the portal that the tree has only left just moments ago, even though for Spock, Kirk, and McCoy much more time has passed than that. When the Guardian declares that many such journeys are possible, a broken heart that Kirk simply states, "Let's get the hell out of here," and the landing party beams up off the planet back to the Enterprise.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. It's a special episode today. It's my first podcast, and we are featuring Orinda. Hello, Orinda.
Hi everyone, live long and prosper.
So, how you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I am all right. I see we are both in our command Star Trek uniforms. You know what I mean? Yours from the original series, mine from the next generation, of course. You know. So, I understand you are from Girls Talking Sci-Fi. You have some other social platforms and everything like that for some of my subscribers who are not familiar with you to come on over and take a look at you.
Well, I have two podcasts. One is Girls Talking Trek, and I have a friend who also is a tracker and trekkie, and we are recapping episodes of Star Trek. We started with the TNG series, and once in 2 weeks we broadcast a episode just recapping that episode. And I think we are talking a little different than men will do. So that's what was my idea to have that particular Star Trek podcast. So, Girls Talking Trek, you can find us on the Facebook group, YouTube channel, and of course on your podcast medium like Spotify, Anchors, uh, Google Podcast, name it, Amazon Music, and then I
Wow.
and then I have Orinda Talks. Orinda Talks, yeah, I talk about everything what is geek, especially like movies, series, books, and from time to time I will go to Comic Cons and that sort of kind of events. So also that is one thing. I do also a lot of episodes of Star Trek in that podcast, but that's a little bit different than the Girls Talking Trek. So this podcast is only available on the YouTube channel and the Facebook group. So take a look. Maybe you like some of the subjects there. And then we, of course, I play Star Trek Online, and I have my own fleet, the Knights of Nalada fleet. And I don't know if you already have take a look of that, Tommy, because I sent you a link for the Facebook group. I also do have to, from time to time, I do live streaming on Twitch with Star Trek Online. So you can also find us on Discord, YouTube, and Facebook. So that's the mediums that there is what I do on Star Trek. So
Now, well, the Star Trek Online, I know you sent me a link, but before I join the link, I might have to play off on my own to get me a fleet going. I can't come in there all bogus. You know what I mean? I can't I can't be captain coming out with a shuttlecraft trying to, do stuff. That's not gonna work. So today's episode, all right, I promised my subscribers that I would do a podcast on my favorite Star Trek the original series episode. And today, that very special episode is called City on the Edge of Forever. All right, it is a season one, episode 28 episode, and it is by far one of my favorite the original series episode. And what I wanted to do was we're just kind of gonna start from the beginning of the episode and go through it and just talk about some of the things that we liked about the episode, some of the things that happened, and kind of get the the female perspective. on this outstanding love story. So, what you think about that?
That's a great idea. I like the episode. I think this is one of the popular episode of TOS, and I think everyone, even if you're not a Trekkie or a Trekker, has seen this episode once in their life. So,
Oh,
yeah.
oh yeah, it's a really great episode. And for anybody who hasn't seen this episode, I hope that this podcast right here influences you to not only watch the episode, but if you're not a Trekkie, influences you to start jumping in and seeing why it is that it has such a great following. The show. So let's start off with it. Now, the episode opens up with the Enterprise. You know, they're on the bridge and they're being hit by temporal waves. Right. Scotty, of course, is always saying that she can't take much more of this, Captain. you know, but the information that Spock is trying to get is important, and because they've never came across temporal waves before. Now, in the process of this happening, Sulu uh, gets, I guess, injured on the bridge, and they call Bones. Now, this is where I guess the good plot picks up because we have Bones come up. He has the hypo spray, and he has this, what was it called? What was it called?
Cortisone or
Um,
something?
yes, yes. See, look at you. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Trekkies.
Hey,
But
I used to be the doctor of everywhere, and even in my fleet and in my armada, everyone said, "Oh, we need a doctor. Oh, call the lady." Oh, you know what? Even as funny, Tommy, I also tap dance, so they call me the dancing doctor.
oh, Beverly, Beverly.
Beverly
so
was my first Star Trek cosplay, and me and the time I doing this, I made that a steampunk version of it. So
steampunk version, really.
yeah, and I have met her on Destination Star Trek in 2017, I believe, and
Wow.
she took one look at me and she said, "Hi, dancing doctor." I was like, "Hello, dancing doctor."
You know, I have never made it to it. Every time a convention comes, I'm either at work or in a whole nother state. I have it in as much of an avid trekker as I am. I have never made it to an actual convention. It hurts my heart. So if anybody want to invite me to a convention, y'all look the brother up. So the doctor, he comes on board and he comes up to the bridge and he goes to give Sulu the cortisol and it works. He's all smiling, happy, joy, joy. And another shake comes and makes the doctor give himself a little bit of the hypospray as well.
A little bit?
You know.
Oh,
Oh yeah, he got the full dose. He got the full Monty on that one. So now, did you notice that Spock didn't Vulcan neck pinch him immediately when he started freaking out, murderers, assassins? Why do you think Spock should have just Vulcan Vulcan neck pinched him right there?
I think that would be not at the time because they didn't have the information, correct information, and even Star Trek Medical didn't have that information. What a whole bottle of cortisol will do with you, and well, Bones is the first patient who has it in that multitude. So, yeah, I think it's you also have to bear in mind Spock is just half Vulcan. So sometimes his reaction will be slower than maybe a normal Vulcan will do it. And like I said,
He got a little surprised.
they didn't have that information that what we know now, and so I think Spock not reacting on that was quite logical.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. We don't know what the medical side effects of a full bottle and a mind meld. Yeah, I mean, the neck pinch. Yeah, probably what it is. Something a little weird. So he proceeds. Bones proceeds to push everybody off of him, including the Vulcan, who's way stronger than a human. Push everybody off of him. It's like the whole bridge of people. And did you notice how quick the turbo lift doors closed behind Bones as soon as he jumped in there? Like the turbo lift was trying to help him escape. Like the turbo lift was quick. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
everybody's just standing there like,
Yeah, what was I also thinking? There were five, six people in Bones' way, and he escaped.
yeah,
Okay.
old Bones, man. And a person actually named Bones, and they couldn't get him
Hmm.
secured on the bridge. So Bones ends up going to, escaping the bridge, and he's making his way to the transporter. Now, of course, that is two signature moves in that Star Trek officers use. When they want to subdue somebody or fight or something like that, they got their two signature moves. They got the judo chop and they got the double fist. You know what I'm saying? They got the this and the judo
Yeah.
chop, and I noticed that Bones hit the security guy. I mean, hit the transporter chief with the real quick judo chops. Pack, pack. It's quick. Just pack, pack. I tell you what, if I could judo chop somebody that fast, and I think that'd be my national pastime, running around judo chopping people. So now we were talking before. Oh, just so everybody knows, this is the second time, right, that we have tried to do this podcast. We went through an outstanding podcast yesterday, right? And we realized that there was no recording going on. Nope, just absolutely no. We had this great talk about this episode, man. We get to the end of it, say our goodbyes, and everybody realized no recording is going on. So, people, this is the second time that we are having this conversation. Just bear with us. Podcast, the video thing, I appreciate that. You know, that's why you got that engineer, that science badge right there on your communicator. You awesome. So, what do you think about how easy it is for a person to beam off the ship when they're supposed to get a message on the bridge to be like, okay, we can stop unauthorized teleport, but they never seem to be able to do that. What do you think about that?
Well, what we talked about yesterday, I thought always that if you want to transport from the Enterprise in the TOS series, that you really need to have someone behind the console because they need to put those three thingies up and so that you transport. So that Bones is transporting himself, that's a little weird to my
Yeah,
eyes.
I agree with you. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, in the original series, it was mostly shown that you have to, slide up those three sliders, those very three sliders. I think that's the only job that the transporter chief has. That's the only controls you really ever see him working. If something happens, they try to slide it back down a little bit, you know. But yeah, they should be able to lock. We know that they're able to lock out the transporter from the bridge, but for some strange reason, everybody's always transporting off the bridge and everything like that with with just with the greatest of ease. And the only thing the people on the bridge is able to do is be like, okay, well, somebody left the ship, you know.
And you know what
So
also weird was is that we know
hmm,
that Bones don't like to be transported. So he must be very ill by that
oh yeah,
cortisol.
oh yeah, that's really messing with him. He running around the bridge talking about murderers and assassins. I wonder who he's talking about. I wonder if he's actually seeing some people, or if that's how he feels about Starfleet. He's just running around murderers and assassins and looking at stuff. But so he ends up beaming down to the planet that they're circling with these temporal waves coming from it. And of course, Kirk assembles a away team. He has Uhura's, he has Scotty with him. He has a few red shirts and everything like that. Spock comes along. They beam down to this planet. Now, the runes on this planet. what did you think about the civilization that probably lived here? What did you think about that? Just based on ruins and how the city looked at things.
Well, I think in one way, it was very old, but there has to be an advanced um, civilization, and that comes to reminder who is the guardian of forever, because there's no one else, only the guardian of forever. He said, and he told the away team, or in this case of TOS, the landing party, that he as well as a computer, but also a actual something with feelings and knowledge.
Yeah, I believe that the phrase he used, which was really interesting, he was like, "I'm neither machine nor biological." In which
Mm-hmm.
case, you think to yourself, "Okay, well, what else is there if you're not artificial and you weren't born, from something living, then what are you? You know what could he? It's not energy. It's not the and then to have existed just waiting on a question for billions of years before Earth's sun burned hot in the sky and before the human race even existed. He just awaited a question. That's not saying how old he is. That's just how long he's waiting on somebody to say something to him. You know.
But
So,
the question
um,
is also,
mhm.
um, how did the Enterprise find this planet? And because there was no order or something, and because of the shockwaves that they had and experienced in the beginning, that lead them down to the planet. So maybe it was like a call from the Guardian of Forever that he said, "Okay, you are in the neighborhood. I will pull you in, and who knows what else they find."
you, you know what's interesting about it's two times that the Guardian of Forever has appeared in Star Trek canon. It was in this episode and it was in the Discovery episode. All right, where he was Carl. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Now there's there's very big differences in between Carl and the Guardian of Forever.
Yeah.
If you remember in that episode, there was no temporal waves or anything that Carl was putting off, that messed up Discovery. They just ran up on Carl out in the middle of a wilderness somewhere. You know, the thing is that remember when we was talking yesterday, I was saying that Spock and Kirk they were walking all around this thing, talking to each other, and the Guardian never said anything until Spock asked a question.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the Guardian doesn't respond unless it's a question. Now, in this interacting with, he just starts talking to Giorgio and Burnham. He's sitting out there with a newspaper and everything. And I'm like, hold up,
Mm.
this is not how the call works. Now they got me calling the Guardian call. I swear to God. So, speaking of, what did you think of the way they depicted the Guardian of Forever in Discovery?
I find it was very interesting because it was, I think, because it's not very a used character, and bringing it back in that way, it's very interesting. Also
Mm,
because it has a name now, but it was in he has a small part, but also a big part of that universe. And in
mm.
this case, Giorgio needed to go back to the Terran timeline, and I think it's very interesting that they use a portal because
Ah,
um, they also could, for example, go time traveling,
mm-hmm.
but they use the portal. So that is very interesting, and especially in a environment where the portal was.
Out there in this. Okay, yeah, I got you. I got you. Now, let me ask you about that. Giorgio, see, the Guardian, he doesn't just send people through time. Remember, I was telling you about the book Continuum. where they featured the Guardian of Forever, where Q brung Zero through him. He's able to also go extra dimensionally, and basically he can open a doorway anywhere in time, space, in dimensions, in realities. That he can actually do that. That's why he was.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading some comments where some people was like, "Well, the Guardian can't open a portal to the mirror universe." Sure, he can. He can not only open a portal to the mirror universe, but any point in time, in any
Mm-hmm.
one of those, not only mirror universe, but any of the parallels. So yeah, he's a very powerful character in that. And I was kind of happy that they brought him back in Discovery. But he's very different than how he was in City on the Edge of Forever, where he was. Hey, I was always curious. Now, in the books, the Guardian was exiled by the Continuum to that planet. But since the book's not really canon, we have to stay to canon. Do you think that the civilization that was on that world built the Guardian?
You suspect that it was the case, cause how can the Guardian be at that place, and it's empty with no civilization, only the Guardian on there. So, um, it's. I think this is the mysterious thing, and a mysterious thing of being the writer, and only the writers can know in that way. Or if you are a fan fiction writer, you can make your own mind up about those things.
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you. All right, and I'm so sorry. Do you remember the original series episode where Kirk and Spock and Bones beam down to this planet that's about to be destroyed by a supernova, and they're in this library. And the library, you could put in different time periods in this planet's history. You can walk through the portal and end up in this planet's history. And this is how the civilization on that planet ended up leaving to get away from the thing. And it's the same episode where Bones and Spock was in that cave with that lady. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Now now if the way that library system worked kind of almost reminds me of a rudimentary Guardian of Forever, to be able to just go through this portal and exist in any point in time and everything like that. But yeah, the Guardian is it would be a very godlike entity, if somebody, in the wrong hands, you know.
How,
So go ahead.
what I was now you mention it, um, my question was like, okay, if you put Q and the Guardian of Forever um, against each other, who would be the better Q or the better God in this way? Because
I,
if
you
it's
know,
Hecotemiums, I
hmm
know both of them are gods.
yes, yes, they are. But especially the later Guardian, Carl Guardian. You know what I mean? The Guardian of Forever in City on the Edge of Forever is kind of seem, although he says he's not a machine, he seems machine based. He seems kind of machine like, as opposed to Carl, who seems like his own entity, can go where he want, teleport anywhere where he want, turn into a human or something that looks like humanoid, instead of his normal gate self. So yeah, that would be interesting to see. I do know that. Yeah, I wonder who would be more powerful of an entity. Probably, I don't know. That's a great question. I'm gonna have to think about that. Amanda, man, you got me. All right. So they beam down, and of course, they're looking around. They're talking to the Guardian, and the thing is that they're looking for Bones. They have tricorders, now Spock has sensed, people from light years away, but nobody's still able to find Bones right around his gate. You know what I'm saying? They looking around rocks in the desert, and tricorder, no life signs, nothing. So I don't know what was up with that cortisol that was able to block the life signs from the tricorder, but
Well,
they sure couldn't find them.
to be honest, I think it was the Guardian who blocked it.
You think so?
Because, yeah, I think it is. Because also when I think, yes, the Guardian is a god, but it also has his disadvantages of it, because when Bones went into the portal, and when the Guardian was showing them the history of mankind, um, the Guardian said also, because Uhura said, Captain, I can't scan the Enterprise anymore. And then the Guardian told them, well, the Enterprise is no more, and the future of the history, is no more, because Bones went back in time. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is something with it, and maybe that's perhaps the Guardian doing. He he made everything different in a way.
I got you. Now there is precedent as far as what happened to them staying outside the changes of time being around the Guardian. If you remember in First Contact, where the Borg sphere had made that chronotype field that the Enterprise had got caught in, and everything outside that chronotype field was changing. And Lieutenant Hawk even said, "Well, we're caught inside this temporal thing is shielding us from the changes." So, that's one of the things that they're in proximity to the thing that's causing the time changes, so they're outside of it as well. Now, of course, Spock is late on reporting the time passage, like you were saying, of all of human civilization going by. You got the Roman times and all these cowboys and everything going by so fast. And at this moment, this is where Bones jumped through, like you were saying. Bones jumps through, and they try to stop him again. Nobody's able to stop Bones. Bones is like a ninja in this episode.
They made him look very sick, by the way, with all
They
those red
did. Yeah.
spots. It was
Oh,
like,
and how he was acting.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So you know what? I've always wanted to just walk into a building, right, and just start yelling, "Assassins! Murderers!"
Oh yeah, that's completely nuts.
It's usually in a grocery store when that happens, and I can't stand them. But let me see. So, okay, we got to stay on. So, of course, they talk to the Guardian, find out that their whole timeline is destroyed, and this is where I want to touch on part of I guess, the paradox of this episode, right? We call it the city on the edge paradox. All right. So Spock recorded the original timeline. All right. Spock was recording that as the Guardian was showing. That is the timeline everybody's familiar with. The whole history of Earth right there. Now, when Bones jumped through, he destroyed all of that. All that was gone. All right. Now, the thing is that now Kirk and Spock have to go through the gate to correct that mistake, right? But the thing is, they arrive in that new timeline before Bones gets there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we're going to continue this crazy theory paradox as we continue on with the episode, right? Because it's important for this paradox. Now they end up back in the 1930s. All right. Now, what was the impression you got from the 1930s? The Star Trek's depiction of the 1930s.
I think that they done it well, because but you have to bear in mind the depression haven't been that long when Star Trek first aired. So in Star Trek aired in 65, 66, and the depression was in 1930. So um, it's still fresh, and that is what I like about the older series of Star Trek, when Gene Roddenberry was still very involved with it, is that Gene was far ahead of his time. And in a lot of episodes, like in TOS and TNG, there were lessons to be learned. And I think Gene Roddenberry was a really, really good visionary who put that in Star Trek. So there was always a message or a teaching that to be taught, and it was also because I can remember when I was in school and there was a history thing that has to be told, but like always the history books and that's all boring and stuff. So my teacher came with this episode of Star Trek and he had that video clipped and he said, okay, this is the lesson for today. Watch carefully and then we're going to talk about it. So Star Trek and especially TOS and TNG have lessons in them that is even for now in the time, even today,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's very hard and also very difficult to talk about it and show people what really is. For example, I can give you, for example, with the Holocaust. I know there are people who don't believe in it, but I actually have been in Auschwitz, and I have met survivors of Auschwitz. So that makes the story totally real. And Gene Roddenberry did a really good job to put those lessons in his episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. That's one of the, and not only to put those messages in the episode, but to always try to end the episode on a optimistic tone that we have done better. We have learned to go beyond this
Yeah.
thing, you know. And that's one of the things that I really don't like about New Trek is there. I don't mind the dark. I don't mind the gritty. I love Deep Space Nine. It's my greatest show ever. Right.
Mm.
So I don't mind the dark. I don't mind the gritty. But even in Deep Space Nine, the outcome was optimistic. Even when they was getting their butt kicked by the Dominion, there was a sense of there was a sense of urgency, but of optimism. You know what I mean? All of the powers coming together in the Alpha Project that was historically enemies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Klingons,
Yeah.
Romulans. Who'd have thought Klingons and Romulans would have been fighting on the same side? But there they are, Klingons and Romulans. By the end of it, even their greatest enemy, the Cardassians, had joined them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Star Trek has always been, that showing that optimism. Even in war, it's showing that optimism.
Yeah. If you like Deep Space Nine that much, take a look on the YouTube channel of the My Fleet, Star Trek Fleet. I have videos that I am playing the Gamma Quadrant, and that is a totally line of Deep Space Nine with the Dominion War.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
See, you be surprising a brother, man. You supposed to tell me this so I could have been on this a long time ago, man. Deep Space Nine is the greatest Star
It's
Trek
not,
series ever made, in my opinion.
but the fun part is that they start with a seminar on Deep Space Nine. So you see the Fortas, you see the Klingons, you see Admiral Quinn, you see Odo. And guess what? Who has his own episode? Quark.
No way. Of course he would.
I'm telling you, you're
Of
going
course
to
he
like
would.
it because that's why when I live stream on Twitch and record it for the fleet, I only do the episode timelines. So I do the story arc timelines, and I will not skip any video or talk video. So you actually see the story, and I have a lot of followers who really like that because
No,
normal.
yeah, that sounds interesting.
So yeah, take a look. I should say.
Um, do that. Yes, yes, ma'am. So, back to the depression thing. Um, and that's also a really good thing that Star Trek does. very differently than even modern Star Trek. They, you had the setting, the backdrop of the Depression, and all of the negative things that went along with it, the homelessness, the lack of resources, the people being broke, all that kind of stuff. But that wasn't the focus of the
No.
episode. They never went and they never threw that in your face. These corporations, these politics, it was just known that, oh man, this is stuff is going on
Mm-hmm.
during this time. You know what I mean? And like that's always been something really good that Trek writers were very good at portraying. They can hold these mirrors up to society, but in a way that whereas they're not beating people with a sledgehammer or a brick or something, about morality or the ethics of it. They let people. It was real nuance. So um, they're in the 1930s now. The first people to arrive, of course, because of how they jump through the Guardian, is Kirk and Spock. Now, tell me what you tell me. I love the way you talk about the first appearance of Kirk and Spock in 1930s with this cop. You gotta. I like this.
That is one of the funniest scenes ever. Well, in Trek world then, we know how Vulcans are and how Spock is. So, but
Mhm.
of course, James T. Kirk is James T. Kirk. And he said, okay, we are like dressed now as monkeys, so we need some clothes that isn't for this time period. And he looked up and there was clothes on the washing line. And he said, ah, there is it. So he climbed up and got those clothes. And they wanted to put the clothes on, but there was a police cop who punished them in at the end. So you saw the look on Kirk's face. I'm busted. Oh, but and then he tried to explain to the cop what they were doing, but he also had to have a valid explanation about Spock. Spock is an alien. Spock has pointy ears, and in that particular episode, and in that particular scene with 1930s, he was yellowish, greenish, and some pointy eyes more. And the first explanation Kirk had about Spock was, oh, but he's a Chinese brother of ours. You can see that, right? And the cop was looking at them, and even Spock was looking at Kirk and was thinking, Captain, they are not going to believe that. And then he had to explain the pointy ears. This is what they said. Oh, but Spock had an accident when he was young. He came with his head between those electronic thingy, and that's why he has pointy ears now. You know what was more funnier? It would have been more funnier if they said, well, when Spock was naughty, his mother would put him on the wash line at his ears. So that's why he has pointy ears.
Spock hanging from a clothesline. That's hilarious. So, all right. Hey, don't you know the alley when they decided to turn around and run, the alley that they end up going down, right? If you look very carefully, um, the two alleys that they end up going down, they're the same alley. They just did it from different angles. The same two barrels. If you look at the two like garbage barrels that's in an alley, is they just shot it from a different angle to make it seem like they was really running around this city trying to get away from this cop, right? So they end up breaking inside the basement. All right, they break inside the basement. They got the clothes on, and they get busted by the great Edith Keeler, played by the national treasure that is Joan Collins.
Do you remember that? Sorry, guys, but I'm going to switch a little bit. Do you remember that episode with in Enterprise when T'Pol told a story about her ancestor being crashed on Earth, and that they
Hmm.
also had to change clothes? But I noticed that the Vulcans wear the same knitted hat as in TOS, what Spock was on. And that was exactly what I remembered. That was, oh, hey, they got it
Yeah,
from
Vulcans
there.
love they knitted hats. Yeah, Vulcans love they knitted hats. They love their knitted hats. That's the thing. Now, Joan Collins, right? Let me talk about Joan Collins because she, besides being a beautiful actress, she was beautiful in that episode, you know. But besides being a beautiful actress, she had played in quite a few things prior to Star Trek. Twilight Zone, Love, Death, and Robots. She played in The Outer Limits, Babylon 5, Tales from the Dark Side, Empire of the Ants with William Shatner. Imagine that. So, um, yeah, that was he in Empire of the Ants, William Shatner? I know he was in a black and white movie. There was either some spiders running around trying to, oh, he no, Kingdom of the Spiders. That's where William Shatner was at. But yeah, so she was a very accomplished actress prior to this episode, and it was a big surprise that she actually accepted the role because of how big of a star she was. So you know, they was really excited to have her in the episode. But did you notice the way that they use lighting and everything with her, and especially with Kirk? It's like you was telling me. What was you telling me yesterday when she came onto the staircase at her first appearance?
I think they liked that in that way because she was the point in this episode that the whole episode was about her in a way because she was the trigger for the changing of the history as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they belighted her like that. Also, of the good work she did with, okay, in the depression, she's helping people with soup and accommodations, etc. So I think it's also like an earth angel like angelic feeling for it, and that's why I think they belighted her like that.
I got you. I got you. Now, yeah, you was talking about the work that she did in that area. You know, like we were saying, it takes place in the Depression, so we know that there's going to be crime. There's all kind of stuff that's going on. But she was able. She ran a soup kitchen and a homeless shelter, all right, and slash apartment building, I guess. And uh, she was really sweet and empathetic, yet a very strong and strong-willed individual. You know, what did you think? What did you think of, say, for instance, her speech in the soup kitchen?
I had the feeling that she knew more than a normal person would do. And maybe that's why she. And I talked with you yesterday. I thought maybe she was kidnapped and had that experience and went talk like that. But I do think there are revolutionary people who can talk like that, and there is, I think, a moment. Like you said, she is a very strong person, but also very caring, very knowledgeable about things.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the hope of those people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep. Hey, speaking of what you had just said, that being kidnapped. Did you know that it's a group of people that are Earthlings that were kidnapped and taught and returned to Earth? Those people were called Watchers.
hmm,
All right. Would it be interesting if Edith Keeler was a down low watcher? You
yeah,
know,
that can
that
be for sure.
you know, because her like you saying, her speech was spot on.
Yeah.
We know about people who are ahead of their time, but her speech was, spot on. So, that's and she's to me also another example of a strong female character, not a Mary Sue, but a strong female character. She had her femininity, she had her sweetness, her smiles, but everybody knew not to cross her. Don't piss this lady off. Like, you know, I got the impression that, um, she could be a bit feisty. So she could be a bit.
Yeah, but I
That's the
think,
impression I got from her.
in that time and in every time, there has somebody like her, because those people will guide you on the right path. And
Hmm.
especially in the time of the Depression, people try to be drunk because they want to forget their sorrows. People do other things. And even till the day of today, there are people who are on a bad path because they do those things. But she was
Hmm.
like a headmistress who said, or who has like a plank in her hand and said, if you don't do that, then you go to that. That's like in a non-school. That, but
Hmm.
like in a softer way.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean. She's that wise sister, that wise old nun sister that don't make a mess. She'll take that yardstick to you real quick, fast. I know exactly what you mean. Now we find that Spock has this information on his tricorder to try to pin down what changes was made to the timeline. But the only thing is that he needs the Enterprise's computer to read the data because of how fast it was going by. So Kirk gives him the mission of building a computer in early 1930s, right? That Spock, I love what he said. He said, "You want me to?" What do you say? I'm endeavoring to build a computer using bear skins and stone knives or something like that.
But that machine what he made, that I
Mhm.
found that was some kind of like a Tesla machine. With all those
It did look.
electronics, and so that's what I was thinking, or like what Mr. Bell with the telephones, etc. Because that was also in that period that the telephone was a little bit in upcoming.
We talked yesterday about how when Star Trek characters go back in time, they inevitably do something to kind of change the timeline. Whatever happened? Okay, so we know that the computer was sitting in their apartment building. I was sitting in their room, right? Okay, we know that it worked, right? It worked. Okay, even though it shorted out, it worked for a moment, right?
Mm,
So it means it's not just a bunch of junk sitting on that table. Now, they didn't bring that machine back with them to the future, which means somebody go in that room. Is this thing, this computer thing sitting in
the
the middle of this
invention of the
apartment?
century.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? They just left a tricorder reading computer right there. But so we find out, Spock finds out that Edith Keeler has to die. All right. So sad because Kirk is falling in love with this woman. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Matter of fact, like you said, from the first moment he seen her, you
Yeah.
know, he had got the little light around him too that she had around her. You know,
But
look,
that was
the lighting,
typical Kirk.
Kirk is different. Yeah, it is. It is. I was about to try to defend him, but yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Kirk falls for people easily. Kirk is serious. Kirk be serious.
if
But you know,
if I take a look on his whole life then as a counselor, if I can say it like that, um, what would happen, or what is happened in his life that he falling so much in love so fast in love with women. Maybe, I don't know, because the only one who died at his birth was his dad, but not his mom. And maybe because of his stepdad, because we see that in the J.J. Abrams movies also, he had a not good relationship with his stepdad. So, what makes him fall so fast in love with a woman?
You know, I think it was this episode where they had the first and only mutant ever pictured in canon. His name was Flynn. I believe his name was Flynn. And Flynn had made this perfect android girl that thought that she was his daughter, right? And Kirk and Spock was down there on that planet to try to get like some type of medicine or whatever from him or whatever. But the dude's mission was to see if his creation could fall in love. And Kirk fell for this android. He didn't know it was android at the time, but he fell for this android so hard that he could no longer command a ship, and Spock had to mind meld with him to make him forget. So I'm thinking that he always got a hole in his heart for that android chick that he ran across a long time ago, and that's why he just always falling in love with her.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
You know, he don't know why, because Spock made him forget. You know, he know he in love with somebody. You know, he don't know who. He know he in love with somebody though. Spock, you know, Kirk is basically, you know, he tells Spock, he's basically like, man, look, we don't have to really figure out if this is what's going on, because I feel like I'm really falling in love with this girl, you know. And Spock is basically like, oh man, here we go again, you know. So now, by this time, Bones is,
Spock.
I know, he's always in the middle of it, like, oh man. Don't get it wrong though, because I mean, don't get it twisted, because Spock, he be having his woman problems too, you know. Spock,
I must say, and that's what I was thinking that yesterday, by the way. We know he is paired up with Uhura, but I find myself seeing over and over again that there is a flirtation between Nurse Chapel and him. So.
Oh yeah, well, it's a flirtation between from Nurse Chapel to him, not from him to Nurse Chapel, from Nurse Chapel to him. He be looking at Nurse Chapel like, yeah, I don't know about you with that beehive bun thing you got on your head. I don't know about that. Oh, you know, speaking of, I have no idea how J.J. Abrams decided that Kirk's father dying would make Uhura and Spock get together. Like, and it has been shown to be attracted to is Scotty. You know, not Spock. It's been Scotty. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's going on. What J.J. Abrams was drinking that day, where he was like, "I'm gonna put one of the most emotional people in Star Trek with one of the most emotionless people."
I must say that I'm not a big fan of J.J. Abrams movies, but I know what you mean, but that's I think Uhura has always been paired up with Spock as well. So I think in one way he took that out. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with these people deciding that they're gonna try to call Brother White right here in the middle of a video. I mean, it's rude. They're supposed to just know already that you're trying to do a video. But as you were saying.
Well, it's like I said, I'm not a real big fan of J.J. Abrams movies, but I think it's also something to happen with what they did in TOS, but what there are in the novels and in the comics. I'm not a real comic reader, so I have no idea what's in there, and I just started reading novels like 5 years ago, so I haven't read that much. So
I gotcha. You know what's gonna blow your mind? So check this out. Now, remember yesterday we were talking that that Edith asks Bones, "Hey, I'm going to my young man is taking me to see a Clark Gable movie, right?"
yeah,
And Bones was like, Clark Gable, and she was like, "You don't know what a movie is?" He was like, "I know what a movie is, but Clark Gable, now I don't know about him." Now, and we talked about how that seems like even on Kirk's Enterprise, they carry forward the tradition from the NX Enterprise of, movie night.
yeah.
Okay, now if that's the case and they're watching movies, um, I was thinking of what other characters would be in the Star Trek universe, and what this is going to blow your mind. Did you know that Marvel and Paramount got together for a very short time a lot of years ago and had a comic book series called that it was Paramount Marvel, and this is where they introduced Captain Kirk meeting the X-Men, which is in canon. All right, where
Yeah.
where the X-Men met not only Kirk but Picard and those guys as well. They also met Doctor Who. So these characters exist in the Star Trek universe. Marvel characters, and a lot of people may not know that. Marvel characters, the X-Men, mutants, all of those people exist in the Star Trek canon.
Hmm.
Blows your mind, right? Yeah, Wolverine and Spock went on a mission once. you know, so
Well, it would be fun if they paired Kirk up with Wonder Woman.
oh yeah, he'll Mac. He'll be like, "What's up, Wonder Woman? What's up with that lasso?"
This could be fun.
Yeah. So all right, okay. So Bones ends up coming back now, right? And when he comes back, he's still all jacked up. It's nighttime, and he runs across a homeless guy. Now, when Bones, and this is a testament to just how smart Bones is in his field. He comes to a place all messed up under this drug, right? He don't know what's going on, and he sees this humanoid. He feels this humanoid's head and is able to tell what species he is, what time frame he's from, all of that just by his cranial design. Looked up in the sky, seen the constellations. Oh, am I on Earth? Like, and this is the doctor. You know what I mean? So, Bones is pretty high speed. What you think of Bones?
There are things in the alternative healings that are like that. Like if you feel there, or if you feel, for example, on your stomach, then they can feel, oh, this and this is wrong. And well, this is similar what Bones are doing, so it's totally valid in what he's
Mm-hmm.
doing. And I think Bones has so much experience, not only on his space travel, but just in general in what he is coming up to, is that he has that experience, so he can tell you what species it is, etc., etc., etc. So, um, to me, as a shaman, is this real? It's complete normal, and
Ah, okay.
so I think it's but it shows you how knowledgeable Bones is.
Even without his medical equipment,
Yeah,
even
but
without talk orders or anything like that, he still.
I do think Bones is more like an old school doctor than a doctor that is really trained in the future doctoring, if I can say it like that.
Like Bashir, for instance.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So now we find that Bones ends up collapsing, and this guy checks him because, of course, again, like I said, we're in the Depression time period, and finds a little phaser. Now the thing is that this guy sets this phaser off, and on Overload. And it's one of the only times in Star Trek where there's no explosion from an overloaded phaser. It's like he just shot himself with the phaser and disintegrated. But it was on Overload, you can hear it, you know. So this is also another point that I want to make as well. So since Kirk and Spock has been in back in time, they've interacted with the cop, ran from the cop, stole some clothes. All right, they
Mm-hmm.
have rented an apartment, interacted with the homeless people up inside this place. All of these things happen before Bones even arrives. Okay, so they have already changed the original timeline simply from their interactions there. Now, when Bones comes, which is after they arrive, the timeline changes again because of Bones. This homeless dude is dead. We don't know if he has family, if he was just out drinking, if he was actually homeless, you know. But this guy is now disintegrated. Don't nobody know where he at. There was nobody's nothing, you know. Um,
His motor codes are
so
broken down.
yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody found the uniforms that they changed out of, which I'm pretty sure is made in either stitched in a way or designed in a way or made with fabrics that are not indigenous to either Earth or that time period. You know what I mean? So all this stuff is going on already before they even start dealing with either Keeler. Now, the second part of the City on the Edge paradox, all right, which we was talking about earlier. So Bones is now in the past. And according to Spock and Kirk, they think Bones does something that changes the timeline and causes the destruction of the Federation and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's not what's happening. I propose that Bones was the one who saved the timeline from when Kirk and Spock messed it up. All right. So I know that I was talking about this with you yesterday, and I hope I'm gonna try to make it less crazy. But Bones jumps through the time thing, right? And they think he messes up the timeline. But that's not what happens. When Kirk and them jump through, they end up in time before Bones messing up the timeline. Bones came, right? And by the time we get to the end of the story and how Bones and Kirk interacted at the end of the story, right? You'll see what I'm talking about. But just keep that in mind. Now, what happens next is, oh yeah, so Bones ends up going to the shelter. He runs across either Keeler. She sees he's all messed up. And you was talking about how well they did the makeup to make it look like he was sick.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you think of the acting? What did you think of the acting that Bones had?
That was
classic
brilliant.
Trek is always.
That was brilliant. And I was thinking this too. When he was with Edith Keeler in his room where he could become better, how did he become better? Because he doesn't have medicine? Was it just only soup? Or
Well, that was some high speed soup. Well, I think that they gave it time to leave the system. That's what I'm thinking. I think after resting, it was able to leave the system, and he was able to, return back to normal.
it remind me a little bit of chickenpox.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Without the
Especially those blemishes they had.
So
I don't know. Chickenpox don't have you running around talking about assassins.
Without that.
Chickenpox, how you run around scratching and rubbing your back on everything, but assassins and murderers,
Edith Keeler and Bones had a very interesting conversation. Yeah. And although Bones was sick, he still had this Bones-like talk. And
we call it gangster.
Mm-hmm. So, but I think also that I think this is one of the not many times that we see DeForest Kelley act so strongly and passionate as in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love his humor, but I think this is one of the episodes that make him compete with William Shatner.
Yes. Matter of fact, a lot of people pass up how gangster Bones is. Just like he told it at the end of the talk, he was like, "That's okay, ma'am. I don't believe in you either." If you remember the episode of Spacey, where he had Khan, who he thought was unconscious, on the bed, and he goes to get close to Khan to see if and Khan grabs him by the throat and puts that knife next to him. And Bones said the most gangster thing ever. He was like, "Yo, if you cut me right next to the carotid artery, that'll death will be instant. But basically, you still ain't gonna, I'm still not gonna tell you nothing that got to do with nothing, man. You need to let me go." And he says this to Khan. Like Bones gangster.
Exactly. Yeah. But that is also some kind of his dry humor.
Mm-hmm.
But that makes him Bones. And I think, and that was what I think that was in an interview when Leonard Nimoy still was alive. He was said, "I was so moved and I was even crying how Cole Urban portrayed Bones, because that was exactly how DeForest Kelley portrayed Bones." And he was very moved by that.
Carl Urban did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl Urban did a great job. He did a really great job.
And
from the accent, the mannerisms, everything.
And you could see that in the last movie of the J.J. Abrams, that Simon Pegg, who also writes comedian, he did all the jokes in there, and that was brilliant. I really liked it how he talks to Spock of what is he saying? Your green blooded bastard or something he called him. And that is so funny. That's really
green-blooded broken.
Oh, you remember that episode in TOS when Bones, Spock, and Kirk went camping, and Kirk went rock climbing, and Spock had those shoes on, and Bones were totally hysteric because those doom scenarios what he always has, and but the interaction between those three, that was phenomenal, really.
Oh yeah, the Undiscovered Country, great movie. Yes, they. I thought it. Oh man, I had a brain fart. But so, what ends up happening is that now we're getting towards the knowledge that, okay, Edith Keeler dies in a car accident. Spock figures it out. She dies in a car accident, and because of the actions of Bones, she doesn't die. And so she delays the entry of the United States into World War II, okay? Which causes all this cascade effect and everything like that. The United States develops the bomb late, loses, all this kind of stuff. So totally, utterly changes the future, all right? Now, Kirk knows what he has to do. But of course, he's in love with this girl. He's in love with this woman, and he ends up saving her 3 times. Okay. And we talked about this yesterday. The first time he ends up saving her was on the staircase when she almost fell.
Yeah.
And and Spock's seen this and basically like, dude,
you can't do that,
man. Right. Yeah, man, look, I'm gonna come up there and push you down.
She has to die because then the timeline will be restored, or the history will be restored.
Yep. And millions of people who didn't die would be able to live now because, you got to let this lady die. If you keep on playing, I'm going to go up the steps and push her down myself.
We were talking about that Q and the Guardian of Forever are like godlike. And when we are coming to the end of the episode, we see that Scotty told them that they were just away for a few moments. So I got the
Mhm.
feeling that it was just like that the Guardian was playing with them, like Q would do.
Really, that's an interesting a viewpoint right there, because if you think of how Carl was interacting with Giorgio and Burnham, it was kind of like he was kind of like toying with them as well, trying to get them to see their point, kind of like a super smart person talking to a child, trying to get them to learn a lesson.
But
You
that's
know,
what
I
Q
think
also do with Picard.
oh yeah, oh yeah, Q's just an awesome character. I don't like what they're doing with him in the Picard season series, but
Yeah, I heard
that's
a lot of people saying that they what they have done with Q now is very so different that they don't even know Q anymore.
right. Okay, that's not getting me on my problem child discovery. I swear. So the second time he ends up saving her, Edith Keeler, is when they're crossing the street the first time, and
Mm-hmm.
he snatches her back out the way of the car that's coming, around.
Mm-hmm.
And so the, he ends up walking across the street, and they're talking, and she's like, yeah, Bones, what she say, Dr. McCoy, I think she used this actual name, Dr. McCoy said
Yeah.
the same thing. He's like, what? You know, Bones is here. Was like, now, the third time he saves her is because he knows she's going to die in a car accident. So she's on the sidewalk, and he tells her, stay on the sidewalk. Stay right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that end scene. Let's talk about the final, the final scene in the past with Edith Keeler, Spock, Kirk, and Bones. Now, what did you think? Did you see it coming? Did you know that this was going to be the moment? Like, what did you get from this?
I think you could have expected it, but
Mm,
it was very interesting to see that it was Kirk who stopped Bones to get over her, run to her and save her.
mm,
And what you said yesterday as well, it's there was that theory about that Kirk did that because he didn't want to see Edith die. But it has to be done because so the history will be changed as it was. Spock was very passive in this all.
mm-hmm.
He's a little bit more uh, down to earth there and would make Kirk more stop than in this episode. He didn't do that as much as he would.
Yeah, you would think with all of the with as high of the stakes that was involved, Spock would have been a little bit more, yeah, more
More
forceful,
involved in
trying to
it,
get the captain
like
to understand.
yeah.
Yeah. So the situation with Kirk and Bones, right? Now, I was telling you yesterday that it was my hypothesis. Not, this is only how I view the episode. I didn't think that Kirk stopped Bones. I think that Kirk used Bones to stop himself. Okay, because like I said, he had already stopped, prevented Edith Keeler from potentially dying 3 times, and he's in love with her. You know, so I think that he knew that he wasn't going to be, it was going to be dang near impossible for him to allow this lady to die, you know? So, Bones, I don't think he would have been able to make it to the street to save Edith Keeler. Kirk was closer, but the way he braced himself against Bones, you know what I mean? To kind of be like, Bones, I need you to support me to stop me from going over here. And even after she died, he was like, he still was still there on Bones. Bones was basically like, dude, why is you still holding me? I need to go check on this girl. And Kirk was still like, nah, man, and the question that Bones asked him, do you know what you've done? And Spock's answer to that was, still gangster. Yeah, he knows. I've been arguing with him all week about this. Trust me, he knows. So that that scene to me, you could just see the pain in both of their eyes, actually in Bones, because you can see that Bones really like that too. You can see the pain in Bones' eyes and the disbelief, like, dude, I know you just stopped me on purpose. Like, and Kurt. I mean, it was just a heart wrenching end. To finally, to be like, okay, well, he then finally found love. Again, this episode, he then finally found love, and then have to give it away to save the future. What did you think
Mm-hmm.
of that premise?
I think this is typical Jim Kirk's life story.
Mm-hmm.
Find a woman, fall in love, woman have to die or have to stay there, and he move on.
What turned into
So
a self-sucking vampire? Yeah, I'm with you. So from the woman's perspective, because you say you give the female perspective in Trek. All right. So from the woman's perspective, did you think that that was a really good love story? Did you think that was a well put together love story?
I think in a way it is. It's maybe like, and you would see it as an old love story, talking about Clark Gable and those old movies. But I think it's typical also to have that love story in that particular time that is so strong and give so much hope and light in the depression, um, and in the dark days. It's something very beautiful, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not even smushy or kissily, or it's just you see the whole action and reaction on each other. So, and I
Exactly.
think that's what's, I don't want to say that's the stupid thing in love stories today. It's just in the past it was being court, and you get to know each other just being polite and go to movies, etc. And I mean, it's not like nowadays, okay, we go to the movie, we're going home, have sex, and that was the relationship. But speaking of, so that is what I like about those old movies is they taking more time. They were taking more time to know the person, but also
Mm-hmm.
it's not hasty in the way of doing something uh, wrong
Ah,
in that way.
it was believable. The bond that Kirk and Edith had developed over that short time. That's
Yeah, but
okay.
I mean
It was
also
believable.
what I also means is what if you are in a dark place in a dark time, and that could be true love. It would be for so many people hope, and it's sheds so much light in the world that it's more like a better day in your life. Only just
Hmm.
observe them.
Yes. So the episode ends with them jumping back through the slow motion jump back through the Guardian of Forever. And he tells them, hey, basically everything that has been restored. I don't know how that's the case when they didn't mess up the timeline like they did, but everything has been restored. Y'all good to go. Please feel free to use me at y'all convenience any other time. you know. But at this time, Kirk ain't trying to hear that. He heartbroken. He's like, look, we need to go. We
Yeah.
need to go. And it's one of the few episodes that leaves off on a somber note. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Like, but how could you end that episode on anything other than a somber note? You know, he lost his love to save the future. It don't get no more basic than that. You know. So, what did you think of the episode overall?
I really liked it, and like I said before, I think this is one of the well-known and popular episode of TOS. And even if you're
Mm-hmm.
not a Trekkie or a Trekker, you have seen this episode once in your life, if it is on TV or streaming or whatever, you have seen this, because it's also very known, like I said, with the lessons in it, but also the whole overall episode. So yeah, I think because it's a very heavy subject where we in this episode, but also in overall the storyline was great. I think the writers did a very good job with it. I think also that if you should have to recommend an episode to somebody who isn't into Star Trek but want to have a look at Star Trek, I think this is a good episode to recommend.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like I said, it's the reason why it's one of my favorite, just in general, Star Trek episodes. You know, if I was to take my favorite 5 Star Treks over all the genres, this would definitely still rank in the top 5. You know, as far as the writing and everything like that. Now, just a little bit about the episode. It was written by Harlan Ellison and Gene Roddenberry. There was a lot of drama with them too on this episode. I mean, like I said, special guest star Joan Collins. It's directed by Joseph Pevney, I should say. I messed his name all up. But it's from season 1, episode 28. You know, 28 episodes in a season, and Discovery can only do 13 or 8. How does
Strange New World has only 10 episodes the first season.
Come on, man. Come on now. Next Generation, 22, 23 a season. Come on. What's wrong with these people? You know, they need to understand that to tell a great Trek story, you don't need all this high production.
Yeah.
You just need a great story. You know what I mean? And you can do 22 episodes at a cheap price. We don't really care about nothing. We love Star Trek, the original series. So come on, look at the production in that. Look at the cheese value in that. But great stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So once again, tell everybody, how to get in touch with you, and everything like that.
Well, I have 2 podcasts. One is Girls Talk and Trek, and the other one is Orinda Talks. I play Star Trek Online, have my own fleet, Knights of Nalada, and you can find all of this and all of me on the Facebook groups, the YouTube channels, for the podcast of the Girls Talking Trek. Also, of course, the podcast like Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Amazon, all that. And for the fleet is also on Discord and on Twitch.
Now I gotta ask because you know what I'm gonna say. Now, where are you from?
I'm from the Netherlands originally, but I live in the UK because my partner is British. So just before Brexit, I moved over.
All right. Now, I've heard you say your name was Orinda. Now, there's a story behind this that I want everybody to hear because I thought it was just the greatest story ever, and I would love for you to share it.
Okay. Well, originally Orinda is an Irish name, and I know there is a city or a little town in America that calls Orinda, but my mom called me Orinda because she had this favorite book. And that's about a mother and daughter in Africa. And the mother was determined to let her daughter study. So and education was very important. So the mom has 2-3 jobs to let that child go to school. She ended up having the scholarship in America, and she studied to being a doctor. And she ended up to becoming a specialist. And in all that time, mother and daughter have a very strong bond. But also, it's not only mother and daughter, it's friends. But it's a very close, nice, beautiful bond that they have and that they share. So at the moment that the daughter is finished with all her studies, she come back to her village and become the doctor in the area. And the girl's name is Orinda. And my mom always liked this story and said, well, okay. She thought I would be a boy, but I came out as a girl, so she called me Orinda.
I'm sure he's very happy you came out as a girl, you know. So, well, thank you for, joining us on this podcast. I really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed yourself as much as I enjoyed
Yeah, I
myself.
liked it very much too. But we always, when we are talking about Star Trek, you and me, we can talk for hours. You know that?
Because it's awesome. It's awesome. That's what I'm talking about. But so, guys, thank you all for watching. Thank you guys for, joining us and being hospitable to our guest, Miss Orinda from Girls Talking Sci-Fi. Please leave any comments that you guys want in the comment section. You guys know I always get back to them. And as always, peace, recycle, and save the whales. You be cool, Orinda. Peace and long life.
So I would like to rate this episode like a 9 because, like you could hear in the all overall of the episode recap, it was a great episode, and there are many things you can say about it, but for me it is a 9. Dear listeners, thank you for listening, and join me next time for another extra episode about Star Trek. The extra Star Trek episode series is because my big love for Star Trek. If you'd like to comment or talk with me about this episode, you can reach out on the Facebook group or the YouTube channel of Orinda Talks. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel or join the Facebook group of Orinda Talks. Alright, see you next time.